Happy Tuesday. I'm just raising myself up. Today was the day of Cat Chronicles. I'm fostering a cat and had the interesting scenario around not being able to find the cat and finding that cats love to lay in plants, in house plants.
Oh, yeah. And you've also discovered the joys of litter boxes.
Litter box, yes. So still learning. So welcome. Today we are talking about the two things that users need to be able to develop an effective relationship with AI. And these are coming from the two things that we see as applied social scientists, aka human factors professionals. What we see are that you've got to understand how that AI impacts their cognitive functions.
Yes.
Okay. So to jump off, I want to first use the context around human information processing and the stages of human information processing, which involve taking in information. So you take it in, you analyze the information that you take in, you use all of what you already know, what you've taken in, your context and understanding, and you
Yep.
decide or you understand what decisions can I make and let
Yep.
me choose from one of those decisions. And then finally, you take action.
Yep. And
So,
and in all those stages, right, you have that transparency, explainability, or we need to have it, so people can trust their decisions, have confidence in their decisions. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that in a lot of cases, I've said this before, and I know you and I have had this conversation before. There's a lot of work and messaging around, the ethical and transparent AI development and helping to understand bias within the development or creation of AI. But what we're not talking about enough is consumption and looking at it from the human's perspective and the perspective that we have in terms of these four stages of information processing and
Hmm.
what that means to how you develop or create AI that supports the ability for a user to develop a relationship.
Yes. Yeah, and you have to have that responsible AI. That term's out there a lot now, and I think this topic's kind of good timing. There's a lot of tension grinding out there around that whole trust and who's accountable. So yes, you have it from a development perspective and training that algorithm. You have to look at things from that perspective first, of course. But then for us consumers, how do we know how decisions are being made? Do we know that they're reliable? The information we're getting, is it reliable? Does it have built-in biases, even if not intentional? So all of those things are very important, especially when you get into some of medical type decisions. With those systems, you really need to know what's going on to be able to analyze what it's telling you, to be able to understand what potential actions you can take, and then to take those actions. It's not just done or shouldn't be done blindly. There is a human in that process consuming that information.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of really relevant areas of that consumption process. And what I really took away from that is you have to avoid misuse or over
Yes.
reliance on AI, especially when you don't understand what's going on in the black box.
Right.
And that's where, from a consumption standpoint, AI developers and creators have the opportunity to provide some level of transparency, open up that black box,
Yeah.
allow us, just like when you're in a relationship of either dating relationship or getting to know someone, there's a give and a get in that relationship in order to develop trust.
Yeah.
And you've got to do the same with AI.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, absolutely. And I think when I think of people in our role, as human factors engineers, there's a great play there for why to involve
Mhm.
people like that. So how do you surface that transparency? How
Mhm.
do you build confidence in letting people know, okay, this is how we came up, the system came up with what we did, what went into that. Let me go backwards if I need to, especially for some uses of AI. Again, I use the medical field. You want to think that your doctor, if they're using some AI tool to help with your diagnoses and treatments and all the options that are out there, you don't want them looking at a screen and just, plugging in a few keys about yourself or pulling in some lab results and the system spit things out and they just blindly, pick, oh, this looks like a good choice. You really, they need to understand, they need that transparency to understand why the system is maybe recommending or showing what it's showing, so that they can make informed decisions. So you can't take the human out. Not yet, at least. Okay, we're not there. Probably never will be. That's a different topic. But
Exactly.
right now, the humans got to be in there. And by the way, if they don't trust the system and they think there are biases in there, or they don't know what kind of data is being fed in, they may not use the system, and that can be a real, that's a negative if it's something that can really facilitate them getting their work done.
Absolutely. And in all of that, it's show me and tell me what you know and what you don't know.
Right.
So again, going back to that relationship or that interpersonal relationship development, I need to understand where I can rely on you and you can support what I'm doing versus not.
Yep.
And, obviously a different conversation is around how there are individual differences in our propensity or ability to trust other people, but also to trust systems.
Yes.
So you've got to keep that, in mind. And second, kind of secondarily, you have to think about serving up from a transparency standpoint, some level of an explanation, or provide me with some explainability around that AI to understand where are your flaws, where can I use this information, and how can I look at things from an explainability standpoint to understand the reliability in what you're providing.
Yes. Yeah, and again, that will increase my confidence. But it will also possibly help me with going back to those stages you talked about, making that choice, making that, what are my options for actions, and then choosing it. I need some insight into what's going on in terms of transparency and explainability. How do you surface that to people? That's, I think, where human factors does come into play. How and where do you surface it to people? Confidence ratings. There are a lot of things out there now. Tools are coming out and they're getting better to, kind of score things. I know we've talked about, there are a couple of providers for sure. IBM's one. I think you mentioned SAS was working on some kind of bias score, things like that, just to increase confidence that whatever that system's telling you, how confident can I feel in that? And then again, surface kind of some of the things in the black box, or provide a way to surface that when people are trying to make those decisions.
Right. And you brought up a really key point around that transparency in terms of your confidence score around a particular. So when you look at those information processing stages, you think about, in number 3, if the AI is providing me with suggestions on actions to take, and it's giving me the 2 or 3 options that are available to me, give me some sort of confidence level for each of those. And if possible, the implications of applying or not applying each of them. That allows me to make a more informed decision around, do I utilize AI? Which of these options do I actually implement? Or do I lean on my own understanding and figure things out for myself, and hope that that's going to provide a better outcome.
Right. And surface what I need to see for that analysis phase. I get the systems doing some of the analysis, but again, that human will be doing the same thing based on what's being served up to him or her, so.
In that explainability, there's also the opportunity to surface some of your flaws in terms of biases. Yep. So presenting and how you present that information is going to vary based on your user, what they're using the system for. But when I say serve up that biases, turn it into this is the explanation for the decisions or suggestions that the AI is presenting, but to provide it in a way that the inputs going into that, or the things that are not a part of the inputs, if you're aware of them, are presented. And that also is helpful in understanding that your AI is only as good as the team and tools that are being used to develop it. So if your team has, implicit biases that they're not aware of, they may not know what to serve up in that instance. However, if you share other information with me, I can make inferences as a consumer of that AI around what might be missing from the data, what might be excluded.
Yes. So it's a data thing, and those biases that we bring to the table from a development and algorithm perspective. Again, not saying all are intentional. They they just happen. And a lot of what we're talking about right now is once it's developed and out there, how do we increase the consumer's confidence and understanding of of that AI. But back to what you said, that doesn't excuse all the testing and the context and perspectives that need to be considered in the training and development of that AI as well.
And that's a really key point. So when you think about that testing, you have the opportunity to provide explanations. I'm tongue-tied today for some reason. But you have the opportunity to provide some explanations around what's behind the black box. You also want to test to ensure that your users can play back their understanding, and that understanding aligns with what you intend in terms of what you're serving up. Because if what you explain is different than what your consumer understands and can play back in their explanation, if those two are different, then you have a problem. You need to go back to the table and make sure that they can, in that context, understand what you're trying to say went into the AI, where the flaws exist, the strength in terms of recommendations, suggestions, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And we could have a whole discussion on ways, from a human factors, a UX perspective, before you roll that out, what are some of the testing you can do? Just like you said, can they play it back? Are they understanding things? Or even better, where do they need to understand things? Where are they feeling less confident in that system? Sometimes you can get that in early testing, or at least start getting an idea conceptually of where that might be surfaced, what needs to be surfaced, how confident are the users in your AI and its output.
Yeah. That's also a good one, where you allow people to provide their perception of reliability and align that with what you understand in terms of that reliability. So there's a lot of opportunity to line up what are your baselines with your consumer's perception of those baselines. And when you think about your explainable aspects of the AI, you have to think about where you sometimes have to share where the flaws exist, where the biases might exist, where that certain things are not present, so that people are capable of making a more informed decision around usage versus misuse versus, and what you mentioned, disuse, which is, I'm just going to put this down altogether.
Exactly. And trust is so key. I mean, that's key to people adopting these technologies where they have choices. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that concept of the feedback loop, two strategies that you can perform today is to provide a feedback loop if it's a digital system, a tool or a feedback loop that allows somebody to give you not only a rating, but maybe ask a question or two that gets at their perception or
Yeah.
understanding of that AI. And then you also have some sort of testing, whether that's a usability type testing or something that would allow them to interact with it and then provide or play back their understanding.
Yes. And from there, you can improve those algorithms where necessary. It's a great way
Yeah.
of getting that kind of feedback and really honing in on, for instance, your algorithms. Where are they off, or where do I need to add information to make people more confident? And this is a new way of where I think, in a way, this is kind of a new way HFers need to start thinking. It's a little different than where's the button go on the screen. So I think we have to give more attention as being players in that AI space, and helping making it more user centered. As funny as that sounds, because it is AI, but there's a human there. So
Yes, and when you think about um, interfaces or interactions that don't have a UI, where you're
yeah.
interacting with AI in different capacities outside of a screen,
Hmm.
what does that mean? And what does that look like as well?
Yeah, what does that look like? And we've been doing that a while.
Yeah,
Whether you want to call things
exactly.
like Alexa, AI. I mean, essentially they are, right? They're
Exactly.
learning constantly. So yeah, you have to consider all of those things and being able to provide the feedback real quick. That's a great example. I'm glad you brought it up because that's one thing, for instance, Amazon did. You can go into your app and say, no, you got that wrong. And
Mhm.
when I've asked Alexa, I got to be quiet or she'll start talking to me now. But those kind of things, it's just very different, but you still have ongoing feedback, even in the world of AI, whether it be on the screen or, like you said, is voice control, voice
Mhm.
command uh, uh, objects or
That's
products.
right. That's right. So, so thank you very much for tuning in today. You have any questions about what we've discussed, feel free to reach out. Again, have a great week. We'll see you next time. And if you have any additional topics you're interested in, please also send those to us at info@leangeeks.net. Have a great day.
Yeah, and good luck with Kitty.
I need it.